Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing remote interviews in the context of tourist K1, that's fiancé visas, and marriage visas. That could be a K3, CR1, or IR1 marriage visa in most cases, involving the spouse of a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, as well as the fiancé of a U.S. citizen. And then tourist visas, we all know what that's all about. This is kind of a little bit of an opinion piece from me, in the sense that, first of all, let me go ahead and quote. This was an update on state.gov, briefings, foreign press centers, update on visa services. And it was kind of a little podcast. It was pretty interesting stuff in there. But I just quoted, I did another videos directly on this, but quoting, finally I'll mention staffing. The department is actively engaged in increasing the number of consular officers who are overseas adjudicating visas. We've doubled consular officer hiring this year from last year, and we have a growing team of experienced adjudicators who are supporting high demand posed by remotely adjudicating visa cases. And that's key, that remotely adjudicating visa cases. I've never seen that language in anything the State Department has talked about up until I read this and did that prior video. Quoting further, and that lets posts overseas have more time to interview applicants who must come in person, I should say. So, what happens with all of this? Well, first, I kind of doubt the immigrant visa units are going to be doing remote interviews anytime soon. I mean, even if this policy rolls out, I doubt we're going to see it in the immigrant visas. So, fiancés, marriage visas, possibly. I say possibly. I don't know. This is speculation on a certain level. Meanwhile, tourist visas, yeah, I think we could possibly see, sort of Zoom interviews, Skype interviews, whatever you want to call it, just video chat interview taking place in a tourist visa context pretty quickly, actually. And I get the impression that may be something the Department of State is kind of keen to do for a lot of different reasons, but most notably, we've got a heck of a backlog in the tourist visa section, in the non-immigrant visa section at the embassy, and that has tremendous ramifications. And to State Department's credit, they don't want that. I know they don't want that. They have priorities and they have a mandate. They need to process cases. So I could definitely see it in a non-immigrant visa sort of setting. The question is it possible we'd ever see it, in the immigrant visa section? My gut tells me probably not anytime soon. But it's not outside the realm of possibility. It could one day happen. But again, there's a fraud prevention unit element. I actually have, on a personal level, I kind of have a problem, especially in an immigrant visa applications are covered under a different section of the Immigration Nationality Act, the INA. So, and the consular officer, I've got certain issues with what NVC does now, the National Visa Center does now. I think there are certain functions, most notably adjudication of domicile, that really have to be dealt with by an in-person consular officer. And another thing I don't really love about this overall trend is in the past, and I've personally done this, there was a time you could deal with consular officers, generally they had sort of hours when they would deal with matters, especially matters pertaining to what's called 221G, requests for further documentation, where you could actually deal with them one-to-one and sort of explain your situation. And that officer is supposed to make nuanced adjudications based on the facts of the underlying case. And look, not every case is going to be the same. It's not cookie cutter. I do understand there becomes a mindset. I hate to call it a bureaucratic mindset exactly, but what other word is there really for it? But there is sort of things can become routine. And when you're used to dealing with very similar circumstances happening routinely, I get that you kind of get into a feedback loop. But the function of a consular officer is to deal with the non-routine cases, the exigent circumstances, and make a determination. Quite frankly, it's why they're granted so much power. They're under the doctrine of consular absolutism or consular non-reviewability. Consular officers really don't have any reviewability on their fact-finding function. And for that reason, I really think we need to hesitate, especially in an immigrant visa context. And I think there's arguments to be made why we should maybe take a step back and take a deep breath, even in a non-immigrant visa context, that there's something to be said for in-person interviews. But that being said, there are a lot of frivolous cases that do arise in the non-immigrant visa unit that just, you don't see that volume in an immigrant visa context. So could we one day see tourist visas being video interviewed while we still see in-person interviews for things like the fiancé and marriage visa categories? I think it's definitely a possibility.